Yes, beautiful people, we are back. What's up, man? Hope everyone is well, and of course, literally doing well. Sorry. The character that I've decided to pick today is, of course, Michael Morbius. The metaphysics of Michael Morbius, or Morbius. And of course, I'm wearing the color red because we're dealing with a vampire, we're dealing with blood, consciousness, vamping energy, exchanging energy, addictive, parasitic thought form energies that manifest as the vampire here, and of course manifest literally right there, which is why we all have the canine vampire teeth. You get me? So vampirism, there's so many degrees to vampirism, but I wanted to break it down so you understand it in connection with Michael Morbius. So when you watch the movie or read the comics, you'll get an understanding basically of how vampirism literally works to a degree. Now, I'll give you basically an example. Let's say, for example, for me, my addiction was hot chocolate. So I was a vampire because I was sucking the life force basically of this particular drink, being a hot chocolate. In return, it was zapping my energy and literally being a vampire and feeding off me, and I felt literally weak. Now, when I first went to the shop to get a hot chocolate, I had no essence of what a hot chocolate is. Through my experiences of purchasing basically that hot chocolate, I drank it, right? In my essence of me actually drinking that hot chocolate, through my experiences, through the doing aspect and through tasting it, the experience now basically catalogued as what? Thought. That particular thought now has registered in my mind. So every single time I see a hot chocolate, I pretty much see the experience of that hot chocolate from the first time I actually experienced it. Now, every single time I basically want to have a hot chocolate, I gratify that hot chocolate by actually purchasing another hot chocolate and buying it, right? But what I've actually done also in the process of actually consuming that hot chocolate is what? I've created somatic thoughts, somatic cells, somatic thoughts. Now, somatic cells are cells which are not created by the sperm and the egg. They're created by your addictions, your appetites. So when I tasted that hot chocolate for the first time, it created somatic cells which need gratification. So every time I sense a hot chocolate, I see an image of a hot chocolate, or when my cells basically, like those somatic cells, need gratification and they want to be stimulated, the chemistry is running my brain, the thought replays, and I go to basically gratify basically that particular hot chocolate. When I drink it now, I'm actually feeding off it as a vampire feeds off its host. But what I'm actually doing is, as I'm drinking that hot chocolate and that particular milk is actually feeding off me because it robs the vital nutrients off me, and I become weak and I become agitated and I literally want more and more and more and more. So in an essence, you actually create the living vampire within yourself, because the first vampire that starts before you actually become a physical vampire is the vampiric thoughts, which are basically plagued in the mind to gratify basically the needs of what you actually want to actually gratify. It could be you have a vampirism, an addiction for sex, for drugs, for alcohol. It could be for foods. And of course, we are all vampires basically on all levels. Why? Because we all need to feed to live. For example, there's people that feed off meat. There's people that feed off vegetables. There's people that feed off literally fruits. There's people that when you actually talk to them, because they want to instigate an argument, they'll agitate you by creating a scenario where you get angry, you get so angry and annoyed because you start debating them. They're all there quiet, and in their quietness, they're actually vamping and sucking your life force, sucking your brain wave light energy into them. It empowers them. You come out feeling all depleted and rushed and just lacking of energy, and they are basically walking out like Morbius, the living vampire, who feeds off plasma. So essentially, vampires manifest on all levels. You have the physical vampires, you have the vampires that feed off the addictions, you have the vampires that pretty much feed off your thoughts. When they talk to you, they debate with you. You have that particular person who calls you up and always drains your mind, body and soul. He or she is feeding off you consciously or subconsciously because they want your help, because they like your light, they like your energy, they like the tone of your voice, they like speaking to you, they like being around you, they love feeding off your energy. Now, for moving all of this forward, Michael Morbius is the living vampire. He basically incorporates the living energy of the fact that he is someone that's in need. He's someone he is in need of help. He has an addiction. He has basically an illness that he's trying to seek all remedies for, but has not found that particular remedy for him to be back to his non-vampiric, addictive, thought-polluted self. So he tries every single thing, and every time basically he suppresses that particular urge, he tries to move away from it, the thought, that particular vampiric thought form becomes stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger until he basically needs to feed and gratify that particular energy. So he basically feels, well, he's addicted, he's unwell, he's sick. But guess what? On the flip side, when he feeds on his particular enemy or a particular person, he gains what? Strength, agility, vision. He gets a rush of consciousness, because blood is the instrument of consciousness. It is your DNA. It is your life force. We've all had that feeling now and again. We've possibly had the nosebleed and we feel that our consciousness has dropped, like you're about to drop down. So you can imagine how vital your essence and your blood plasma is. Now, can you imagine someone feeding off you? Well, yeah, people feed off you all the time. They feed off you, like I said, when you have arguments, when you have debates, when you try to get your point across, and that particular person knows that you're trying to just express your point, but they try to agitate you. So essentially, they're feeding off you spiritually. They're feeding off your spiritual energy, and they're sucking it in. Pardon me, they're ingesting it, and they're making themselves basically whole 100%. So in a nutshell, Michael Morbius is the living vampire, because we are all living vampires. And like I said, the reason that is because he feeds off plasma. We feed off what? Food. We feed off basically meat. We feed off basically fruits, vegetables. You know, when we actually are intimate and having sex with somebody, we feed off their energies. There's always an exchange of energies. The biggest vampire is actually the female, and that's because she is the one that magnetizes and pulls energy forward from the male. She's magnetic in nature. So when the guy is intimate with her and he's inside of her, she's pulling his essence, she's pulling his energy. She's magnetic in nature. So she pulls the energy in all the time. And she basically is vampiric, of course, in nature. And that's a good way, because she magnetizes love, empathy, kindness, all of that energy. She actually projects it in. And she, that's the energy she puts love into when she makes food, when she gives you a hug, when she gives you a kiss. The female is vampiric in nature. But like I said, we are all vampires, of course, in nature. We are all vampires, of course, in nature. And of course, what is vampire? The word vampire, to a degree, if you switch the letters around, it's fire. And of course, where do we mostly gratify our fire? Here, when we express ourselves. And of course, the fire literally which we have between our legs, which, if focalized, can ground you, can push you forward, can sustain you, can generate you so much energy, because now you're recycling, you're circulating, you're refining, you're grounding that particular energy throughout your whole body. That creative sexual energy is getting put to uses where it can help you. But of course, on a lower frequency, it's lust, it's anger, it's frustration, it's sexing with no point. It's just people going frigging nuts and mad. And of course, it's a balance. And you know what? It's a good thing, because when you come out of that essence, you understand where the high frequency of that vampirism, sexual energy actually aligns. If you never experienced the low, you would never understand the high. And if you never understand the high, you would never understand the low. There's always polarity in both. So whoever you are, whatever mistakes you think that you're making in life, just know through the mistakes, through the trials you've gone through in life, you are acquiring balance, because now you can understand and teach and show and pass the message onto people of what basically you actually have experienced and how you can actually help others. For example, if you're someone that's gone through so much, I don't know, mental depression, or where you've been mentally depressed, but then you use certain practices, meditation, internal arts, whatever it might be, to increase your energy, and you meet someone basically who's on the same level as you, you can now understand and have empathy and kindness and actually show that person how to elevate their strengths. So in a nutshell, that's always the thing. There's never anything, it's never a bad situation. It's basically just you changing the frequency of energies to basically to benefit yourselves. And of course, the vampire is always mysterious, always alluring, always beautiful, always mystical. But if you understand what the vampire is, you always see behind his or her glamour. You will see the blood drooling down basically their teeth. And the reason I say this, we've all met people in the past, being maybe in relationships, friends, we thought they were nice, they were glamorous, they were beautiful, they hypnotized us. But then when we got deeper into them, with them, on an intimate level, or mental level, or we were just friends with them for a very long time, we saw their true vampiric essence, and they were just feeding and sucking the life force out of you while you thought they were just your friends, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, your lover, or whatever it might be. The vampire is essentially, it starts from here. If you have any vampiric, somatic, addictive thoughts and you want to detox and help yourself, the first thing you want to do is cleanse the mind and detox the mind. Fasting will be amazing for you because it will basically start to deplete and delete all of those accumulated somatic parasite thoughts that have been accumulated via the experiences you've inexperienced, and I say inexperienced because it's an inwards process, out of the mind by fasting. Because the first thing what happens when you do a dry fast with no water, you start to deplete and remove the thoughts basically out of your mind. They start to go back into the consciousness stream and become nothing but light. And you might feel symptoms of where you might feel nauseous, tired, maybe dizzy. You may go to the bathroom a lot. All of those symptoms are basically you depleting, deleting, and removing toxins out of the body. So if you want to detox, detoxing doesn't start with you going to the gym, doesn't start with you eating healthy. It starts with basically you deleting and cultivating and refining basically unbalanced thoughts which have caused you agitation, friction, division into basically energy and light. And basically what happens is in that process, when you start to cultivate those thoughts, those vampiric thoughts literally that have been feeding off you, what happens now? Pow! Check this out. When you start to balance them via the observation, via doing internal martial arts, via doing internal work, via meditation, via doing practices that will cleanse and balance and harmonize the mind, they start to reverse, and they start to feed your life force, which is what the vampire that you created, being the life forms, the life thought forms, were actually feeding off you and draining you. And that's how pretty much you become balanced, and you start to delete basically those particular vampiric thought life forms basically from your system. And that's pretty much, peeps, my metaphysical breakdown, of course, of Morbius the Living Vampire. Once again, we are all vampires. With that being said, peeps, hope everyone is well and of course literally doing well. As always, make sure you smash that Instagram, IGTV, YouTube, podcast, Twitter, Snapchat. Subscribe, follow, listen, podcast, thumbs up, thumbs down, Instagram, heart, like, swipe up button, whatever it might be, wherever you're hearing and listening to my beautiful North African Marvel, Gemini, Algerian, vampirizing, Morbius, the Living Vampire self. I hope the movie is good self. Yeah, just click the button and just, subscribe and listen to me. That's pretty much it. Catch you beautiful people in a bit. Peace.